A 2-liter bottle of cooking oil was $2. Today, the same product costs $5. Sugar was $1.60. It now costs.
East Africa is one such region. The BBC's Namukabo Erunga is at the touchscreen with more details.
The World Food Programme, the war alone has increased food insecurity in Western Africa by 24%, in Eastern Africa by 20%. Among the items with high food prices are cooking oil at an increase of 69%, spinach at an increase of 39%, and cabbage is at 16.1%. The inflation rate in urban areas is at 16.44%. Some of the 0.67%, and inflation rate is at 12.4% increase. The World Food Programme warns that if the war in Ukraine continues, things will get worse.
Now, it is about Africa that means it's particularly badly.
It is because Africa imports a lot of wheat, a lot of barley, a lot of cooking oil, and a lot of fertilizer from both Russia and Ukraine. Wheat imports account for almost half of the 4.5 billion US dollars trade with Ukraine alone. So what happens when Ukraine and Russia, it is not just that the food has become more scarce in Africa, but the fact that transportation has become also very difficult situation in Africa.
So let's think long term now, finally. What does Africa need to do to avoid the situation?
Well, first, the trade open among the countries. Otherwise, the situation is going to get worse for them. Second, I think they need to diversify to do. And thirdly, I think it's very important that they increase production within Africa.
All right, Mr. Fury, thank you so much for those insights. European countries, have they delivered? We'll answer that question in just a bit.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet, and phone. Log on visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. To watch NTA International, your window to the world.
This is the breakdown going beyond the headlines. Now, in December 2020, G7 countries began to roll out the first COVID-19 vaccines. This rollout was a race against time as deaths rose around the world. However, 3 months would go by before the first dose was administered on the African continent. By this time, at least 50,000 people had died from COVID across Africa. In June 2021, the G7 pledged to vaccinate the world by the end of 2022, thus effectively ending the pandemic. The Imperial College London has found that almost 600,000 deaths could have been averted in 2021 had 40% of people in all countries been fully vaccinated. Nearly all these preventable deaths were in low and middle income countries. To date, only 18% of people on the African continent are fully vaccinated. Despite such a low vaccine coverage, however, the Imperial College research found that COVID vaccines have saved 500,000 lives in Africa alone. Now, joining us now to unpack this is Dr. Gidenji Gitahi from AMREF and the People's Vaccine Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Now, let's begin. G7 countries have pledged 1 billion vaccines to help end the pandemic. Why hasn't this goal been met?
Well, I think it's because most of the donation promises were made on the back of pressure for intellectual property transfers and the change of what we call TRIPS under the World Trade Organization. And therefore, many of the declarations were to meet a public relations exercise and vaccine diplomacy rather than actually an actual intention to close the inequity gap. That is the reason. And if we actually do this further, you will see that even after those declarations, as you're saying, less than 50% of the promises have actually been met because they were never really meant to close the inequity gap.
So what kind of discrepancy are we really looking at between the pledges made and the deliveries made? And who are the biggest offenders here?
As you look at Team Europe, you look at the UK, many of these had actually promised to deliver their doses by June. Now we are in July, and we know that they're still way below the promises that they had. They have not even achieved 50% of what they promised to deliver by June. So I would say UK, Canada.
So now the People's Vaccine Alliance have said that vaccine monopolies are making it more expensive to vaccinate the world. What are the exact numbers and how can this be addressed?
You see, the production costs is about volumes and margins. Now, I put very high margins on vaccines because of monopoly. India and South Africa specifically went to the WTO to add down. We saw this with HIV. Competition brought down the prices by 99%. But the pharmaceutical monopolies have refused to release intellectual property with support of high income rights. So this is the issue. And this is why we are saying that pharmaceutical monopolies are the reason that vaccines remain expensive. We have seen that vaccines could be almost 5 times that or even more. And it is so because the monopolies are not allowing competition, not allowing volume production, not allowing to open up the ownership of intellectual property and therefore production of vaccines for the people.
Dr. Gitahi, thank you so much for those insights.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you very much.
Now, Kenya's presidential, however, as has been the case in every election year, misinformation posts on social media are rife. Recently, a video made rounds purporting to show violence between supporters of the top 2 presidential candidates. But was this video taken in Kenya? Mel Miento finds out.
As Kenya heads to the general elections in August, there has been an increase of misinformation tailored. Deputy President William Ruto's supporters clashed with his rivals. After that incident, this video media. The video was, however, misleading and was not the incident at the political rally. A Google search of the words gang fight Kinshasa on Twitter shows the exact same video, and as you can see, there's a word that's being referenced here. The word is kuluna, which means gang member or street gangs, and it actually dates back all the way to 15th January 2022. A Congolese journalist working for AFP. A Twitter translation of his French post reads, and I quote, "We are in Kinshasa, capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Innocent victims," end of quote. The video was taken in Kinshasa and not Nairobi, and the incident, a doctored billboard purporting to thank the Kenyan president for reducing the price of maize flour, circulated online. The image featured the president and a packet of maize flour, claiming the commodity price has been reduced by $0.017. The claims came amid frustrations by the citizens over increasing food prices. A quick photo search shows that the original billboard is true.
Just goes to show you can never entirely believe what you see online. Now, James Kagambi grew up on the slopes of Mount Kenya, Africa's second highest mountain. He has spent more than 30 years leading Badney. He has conquered the world's highest peak, Mount Everest. How did he do it? Take a look.
My name is James Kagambi, commonly known as KG, my mountain name. I'm a teacher. I teach in the mountains, so I'm a mountaineer. I'm 62 years old. I remember going to school on the sides of the Western Elgon. I looked at it and said, I want to climb that. 25 years ago, this climb in Europe. That's when I looked at the achievements I've done, and I realized that I had the skills to do Everest, even by myself.
From Everest Base Camp, courtesy of Full Sack on KG. It's happening.
Decided he needs to put the first black team I'm not going too old. My knees are even painful. And he kept calling and said, look, I'm calling you because we need you.
I feel good. So good.
We were going there to sensitize people of color to show them it's not only one group of people that can go to mountains. The hardest part was seeing the change in people, especially in my family. As it went closer, you could see people, it is sinking in now that this is that I would not take that. I thought that I would be camping on snow. One, on snow, but we are on ice. It was of May. This thing I wanted to do, when I got there, I wanted to kneel down and pray. There, I realized that no, I cannot spend much time here. So the first thing I did is I did a prayer for Kenya as a country.
Heading down to Camp Everest. I am a
There's that point of me being content with what I have done in the mountains. Something goes wrong, I'd say I belong to the mountains. And it was very clear for me that even if something went wrong there, I would have loved to be
online. Reach us at thebreakdown@bbc.co.uk and at Shiromorioki and at BBC Africa on Twitter. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
You get to see the way tell him about the post this. Don't forget to send in your messages.
There's a difference between picking, chow, and is. The idea that is and do more with less people.
If we have a better way of addressing these issues, taking care
Congratulations, you've been able to sign Timo Werner from RB Leipzig.
So you take water before your workout.
People have used that for little TikTok to do that.
Like a protest that
A lot of people don't even have resources.
I'm Cecil, and this is the Medley Show on NTA.
We'll be looking at snacks from different parts of the country. Some of these snacks have been able to migrate from their native lands and have infected our taste buds. These snacks have gotten nationwide approval. Let's start with a snack made from beans. Known in English as bean cake, this quick meal has gained nationwide traction. I'm talking about the popular akara, as it is known in the south, or kose in the north. It can be eaten with another well-known mixture called pap, also known as akamu or ogi in the southwest, or cocoa in the north. Groundnut, popularly grown in the north, is a snack eaten cooked or roasted. Groundnut, when mashed with pepper, is eaten with garden egg at special occasions in the southeast. When roasted, it can be eaten with other snacks like gari, popcorn, or roasted plantain. Groundnut can also be made into kulikuli, a groundnut paste which is then baked with different ingredients to give it a desired taste. In whatever form you take it, it is very satisfying. Corn is another readily available snack in streets across the country. It can either be roasted on charcoal fire or boiled with or without the outer layer, then eaten alone, and sometimes with coconut or African pear called ube in the southeast. Roasted beef, known as suya, is another nationally accepted snack. Originating from northern Nigeria, suya is achieved in a slow and tenderly cooked method over charcoal fire while being seasoned with specially prepared spices. It is mostly sold by northerners in the evenings and at night time along street corners. Finally, we end with kola nut, said to be grown in the southwest, consumed in the north, and celebrated in the southeast. Kola nut has been able to traverse the whole country. It is a good source of caffeine, which may be why long-distance drivers have it handy when on the road.